Oh, I have been looking forward to once again being able to say one of my favorite things. Are you ready? Hello, my fellow sorcerers, and welcome to Season 8. Or at least, almost Season 8. Not long now. And as always, before we get stuck in, we need to know with what build we shall be stucking in with. Yes, leveling for Sorcerer this time around is actually not going to involve incinerate and burning. Yay! Even though I say that knowing that our endgame best build options are more than likely going to end up being burning or even more likely splintering energy still. Especially if overpower snapshotting is still a thing. I swear the best build every season is just who can abuse overpower more now, and it really does suck. I really hope that the day comes that we get some actual proper scaling on, well, shock builds that aren't splintering energy, frost builds in general, and fire builds that aren't burning. In any case, though, that aside, and we'll see how everything develops, there's always the chance that a hero emerges, and as always, I'll be here theory crafting and doing my best to make that happen. I've been playing the class since literally the pre-release of the game Season 0 beta weekend, and I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon. Though, to a more positive side of things, the PTR of course happened. I was there, giving it a thorough once-over, part of the hilarious Andariel Skull burning build shenanigans, but that has very much been nerfed. But that said, the patch notes post-PTR for Sorcerer are really promising. Some good quality of life in ice shards actually hitting things that are hugging you, but mainly familiar actually having some cast speed on it. Massive animation improvements so it no longer feels like you're just pressing the pause button on your gameplay every time you cast it. The clunk from the looks of things is gone, and that's really exciting because familiar is a huge linchpin of the leveling build we'll be using. And I realize so far I haven't even got to, the leveling build this video is, but I always like to do a little TLDR on Sorcerer in the beginning of the leveling to tee up the season. In any case, Avalanche change is nice, it's simple, it's straightforward, but I wouldn't expect ice shards to be going crazy. It'll be solid, it'll be capable, it'll do what you need to do, but it'll be a miracle if it's, one of the top options. But I will still give it a good go because ice shards is fun and, it takes you way back to early Diablo 4. Some aspect changes are nice too. Ice spikes scaling with Blizzard is nice. That actually gives Blizzard some potential to be kind of a good build. Probably not literally top, but very good. So I am happy about that. And then we get Frozen Memories, of course, changed because of Avalanche actually changing, which is nice too. And hey, getting cooldown reduction on the new unique is also nice. But again, Ice Shards is... Enchantment Master is also very fun with this change. We might see some interesting ways of playing with that. In any case, though, let's actually get into it then and talk our leveling for Season 8 before I get any more distracted. What are we doing? Well, as you're seeing in the background, I technically have Arclash on my bars, and this is going to be a basic attack shock setup abusing a couple of things. The first one of those is your shocking impact. Every time you stun an enemy or attempt on a boss, you do a load of lightning damage to them. We also have a temper to get a load of ranks, and we can hopefully find that pretty early on. If we can use this and then stun enemies repeatedly and rapidly, everything kind of takes care of itself. But that by itself wouldn't be enough to switch from burning. But of course, this season we have the boss powers, and one in particular that we'll get to is very exciting when combined with this general setup. But what's the other half of shocking impact? Well, familiar, right? An enhanced familiar makes that your lightning familiar stuns an enemy every 0.5 seconds. And that is kind of ludicrous. So if I'm just standing here, I summon my 3 lightning familiars, and then just watch, and we see that they utterly annihilate. That's kind of the flow here, and that's some seriously fast automatic leveling, and we tool everything else to just going quick and end up in a really, really good spot. Now, to stress in the background here, I'm doing some Torment to Helltide. I am ruining a Torment to Duriel, so you can see that it's still got some meaty boss damage, and indeed a Pit 50 was quite comfortable. Now, all of these by themselves don't sound too impressive, but to really stress, my gear doesn't have offensive tempers. I'm not using a single unique. My gear isn't enchanted for good or even okay affixes. I've just got basic aspects on everything. I don't have any witch powers, of course, because that would defeat the purpose. And on the same note, I don't have any boss powers active because I can't have. So actually, it's going to be a lot stronger than you're already seeing. The point I'm trying to get across is I am very much nerfed, air quotes. I don't even have any glyphs equipped, so you can get a kind of more fair feel for how it'll look and play as you level up, get to 60, and then use this build to transition into Torment 1 and start actually leveraging yourself in endgame. In any case, then, we move on to the boss power that we'll be playing this with. So we have constant stuns, we have ourselves shocking impact, that is carrying, and then we use a basic skill because we're going to invest in the boss power, Allek's talons. And this then means that when we cast a basic skill, we do a boatload of dot damage to enemies hit by it. And this will really start to give us that little edge on top of the shocking impact. And that's really, really exciting. It's also a easy to acquire boss power, just needing an apparition to be killed, and very much gettable early and quickly from when you start, so it's not going to wall you. But even if it does take a little bit to get it, as we've seen, the rest of the build holds together in a way that is incredibly potent and quick. We even have teleport enchant going for us. And the reason I've gone with Arc Lash is, one, I really enjoy using it, but more practically speaking, we do have the extra cooldown reduction from hitting stunned enemies, which of course will be doing a lot. And then when you're going to face a boss for sure, you can switch to Flickering, which adds a load of actual damage to it, and that makes it very flexible, on top of the fact that it does just stun itself, which is an extra trigger of our shocking impact. That said, if you don't want to be close range, if you don't like Arc Lash, if you find it uncomfortable, you can completely play with Spark instead and go for a more ranged disposition, and it will serve you just as well. This very much is personal preference between the two, so keep that in mind once we go through the skill tree. So that's the kind of bottom line here. We have lots of stuns, lots of shocking impact to really carry as we level, as the relative damage it does is absurd compared to the difficulty of the enemies. We eventually then get a huge power up in the form of Allek's talons to work into our basic attacks that's fueling everything, while we just go fast, be unkillable, get to 60, get established on Torment 1, 2, and so on as fast as possible, and we get to all do it not via burning for once, so I think that's a win-win. With that all said then, let's get into the skill tree point by point. Oh, how I have missed this. So, your basics then, which are everything here. Choose Spark if you prefer it and want a ranged playstyle, or choose Arc Lash if you prefer it and want a melee playstyle. I, in this case, will be going Arc. Then you want Enhanced if you're going up against a boss, Flickering, and then just for general play, you're Glinting to speed up the build a little bit. Then, as we come over here, there's nothing we actually desperately need to get yet, so we may as well just power up our Arc Lash until we unlock our defensives. At which point you want to grab your teleport, you want to take enhanced, you want to grab your ice armor, take it to enhanced and then mystical, and now we unlock our conjurations. At this point we can get familiar, enhanced familiar, and then invoked familiar. You also want to get yourself ice blades, enhanced ice blades, and roaring ice blades for that cooldown reduction to spread to everything else. We have now got here, and we can finally get, you know, the star of the show, your shocking impact. Get it and max it as soon as possible. Now we do need to get to our ultimates so we can return up the tree a little bit, and we're going to get mystical teleport. Yes, we want it to form crackling energy. It is very, very important. We are also about to unlock our next enchantment slot, so we will finish leveling Arclash, and we will also get that fireball for that first enchantment slot. Then we can head down to our ultimates, where we want to initially then grab unstable currents, and then we want to get all of our cooldown reduction, as it makes everything just feel so much better. Now we can indeed get that fireball enchant in, and that's all lovely and well. Back down then to the ultimates, where we now want to get conduction, and then we can max out convulsions, as convulsions is getting changed and will now be giving us 15% multiplicative increased damage while we have crackling energy, and actually finally let us auto pick it up from nearby, which is something I have requested for 8 seasons. It's so nice to see, and essentially will become just a mainstay, because that's a lot of damage for working in some crackling into your build. Then, after that, we want just one more point so we can get to our key passives, so we will grab the attack speed on unstable currents, and then enlightenment is the way, at least while leveling. It gives us the most compared to our other options. VS Mastery, if you find yourself a little bit too squishy, is okay, but it's still not really the best. Enlightenment does a lot for us. The attack speed feels fantastic more than anything else. Then we can head back up and start filling some more things in. Back to your conjurations to get align the elements, and then full protection, so we can actually start having consistent barriers to power our aspects. Then we want to grab your glass cannon, as it is a load of damage for very little points, especially in its new better state. Then we can get a point in potent warding to start building up our resist, which will come in handy the further up we get, as we start pushing into torment with this before we swap to a better build. And now we can get our second enchantment slot. We have also now, of course, got enlightenment, so we do want to take flame shield to help stack it faster, to cycle into the fire, and to give us that all important "you can't do anything to me for 2 seconds" button. So at this point then, the second enchantment. You either want to have teleport to actually, you know, gain access to teleport, as it's very, very important. Obviously, before this second enchantment slot, we do get teleport as we did. You want to have it on your bars. You only want to do this swap around when you actually get flame shield around the time you get the second enchantment slot, and can make the decisions we're about to make here. In any case then, we either do the teleport enchant for some speed, or you do the ice blade enchant to get even more cooldown reduction. And if you do this, you want to actually take ice blades off your bar and then get teleport back on manually. It's kind of 6 and 2 3s which way round you do this. I prefer doing it this way, but it is up to you. Then we have kind of everything sort of in place, and it's time to start filling everything in. And that basically involves just getting damage in kind of any given order that you want. So we want full permafrost, because we have ice armor on our bars. We want full icy touch, as we will have solid vulnerable uptime. We want full hoarfrost, as our ice blades will be chilling enemies, and ideally we will be working frost nova into this via runes. Then we get inner flames for even more damage there. We want to get elemental synergy for even more damage there. Then we head up and finish up that potent warding. The all resist is going to come in very, very handy. Then we assume that we have found the correct runes that we need to be worth getting Frost Nova, Enhanced, and then Mystical. We won't be casting it, but our runes will, so we can then make everything vulnerable and take 15% more multiplicative damage, so it's a worthy use of those points. We want to grab Icy Veil so our barriers are up as long as possible, and therefore aspects like Conceited are active for as long as possible. And now with just 5 points left, we can improve Unstable Currents all the way till 5 out of 5 to get that cooldown reduction, to use it more often, and hey, even that stun when it activates is an extra shocking impact. Then on this last point, you can either get Supreme, so we do get that crackling energy, or you can simply shove it in to teleport to slightly reduce the cooldown. It is up to you. And that then is our skill tree when all your points are said and done and accounted for, which has our bars looking like this. Now then, there's really nothing too complex about actually playing it. We move along with our enchant teleport, constantly arc lash, swiping backwards and forwards, all lovely. Use your ice blades on cooldown, use your ice armor on cooldown to keep up that damage boost as often as possible, use your unstable currents on any given tricky pack of elites or bosses, and then save flame shield for either a tricky situation or to cycle enlightenment as fast as you can. The only real nuance here is your familiars. You want to make sure that they are always lightning familiars when you summon them, so we get the stuns into shocking impact. If I get a load of training dummies out to show you, well, then you can see just how ridiculous it actually is once everything's firing. We make sure they are on shock, we put out your 3 of them, and then pop, pop, pop. All of those yellow numbers are that lovely shocking impact doing its work, and work is what it does. This is about you adding anything else, or indeed the boss powers. It really is lovely, and also provides incredible lockdown, making it incredibly hard to die. The rest of the time, you're just doing everything as I just said. And again, remember that ideally you should swap to the flickering arc lash if you're up against a boss, but you don't really have to, just if you want to min-max. So, let's talk gear. As we can see, nothing crazy going on. A few of these aspects you can get through the codex, like Conceited, but most of them are just going to be kind of generically good stuff, because that makes the most sense while leveling. So, we want Rapid, and this one is unlockable via a dungeon into your codex, and it's one I recommend you do straight away, as it makes everything feel so much better to get that attack speed on the basic attack. Then you want Conceited, the more damage with the barrier. You want yourself Storm Swell for the ice armor damage, and indeed it's why we are running ice armor, as it's not for the survivability, it's just for that damage. We want ourselves Accursed Touch, just to get a little bit of extra vulnerable. Honestly, this is the flexible one. You could do anything with this. This is sort of a best of the worst situation. Then we have Shredding Blades for that lovely vulnerable increase, and the extra Ice Blades vulnerable chance, which does work out quite nicely while leveling. And then lastly, we have Aspect of the Moonrise, just to get more attack speed out of those basic attacks, but again, much like a Cursed Touch, this is a so we have something else to use if you have the space, the inclination to imprint, and you found all of these aspects. The main ones are very much Rapid, Conceited, Storm Swell, and Shredding Blades. Then for the rest, you want yourselves collecting Crackling Energy, gives you movement speed. We're always going to be generating crackling energy thanks to teleporting, and then this gives us a big burst, which is nice for your leveling speed. Then we have ourselves Hectic. We're always doing basic skills. We might as well get that cooldown reduction. Then we have Might. We're always doing basic skills. We might as well get that damage mitigation, and this should be more than enough while leveling. Lastly, Orange Herald. We are again wanting to unstable currents as much as possible, so we might as well get some more cooldown reduction on it, but you can honestly choose what you like for the non-offensive stuff. If you have something you particularly enjoy or feel more comfortable with, that's completely fine. runes, and then your gems-wise, you want vulnerable damage in your weapons, you want skull armor in your jewelry, though do note that you might need diamonds instead for all resist, depending on your resistances and caps, depending on where you're at, so it's always something to think about. You always want to be at that cap, ideally, both 70% for your resistances and 1,000 for your armor, and then intelligence in your non-rune slot armor. For your runes then, the one that you really want to look out for is Mystical Frost Nova, and a decent way of triggering it. The 5 skills that exhausted is really nice because it just makes it happen for you, and it quite consistently goes off, and once you've got this is when you put those 3 points in the Frost Nova on your skill tree. The other is more flexible and basically depends on whatever you happen to get dropped for you while you're leveling. A few recommendations is casting Evade for the Offering is generally the best one out of all the commons you're likely to get, and then either critical strike chance for damage or movement speed for, well, leveling speed, though not as necessary if you just use Charged Archon here. After that, when it comes to the gear itself and affixes, look, you're leveling, you're going to be replacing gear all the time, just sort of choose the best that you can get. There's nothing that you desperately need to look out for, just keep having on appropriate gear outside of your jewelry, which you can sort of just leave there with the correct aspects. You want a wand and focus for the attack speed on the basic attacks, and ideally a wand or a sword, but it doesn't really matter too much, just keep it as high item power as you can while leveling. Tempering, however, matters a lot more. Masterwork, just if you feel like, why not, but tempering is actually quite a solid improvement here. And the reason it is thus. Ranks to shocking impact on weapons. That is really, really important. I don't even have it on my other one in all of this footage, as again, I wanted to keep myself minimally powerful to show you what's going on here. But as I say, this thing is really, really good. Prismatic Augments, ranks to shocking impact, very, very important. Now, I don't have any just kind of generically offensive enchants going here. Nothing has it, again, to keep my gear in a good place, but what you want on anything that can have an offensive temper is, well, there's a lot going on. You can do lightning damage, you can do shock, critical strike chance and damage, you can do critical strike damage, you can do vulnerable damage, you can just do damage, and depending on which basic attack you've gone for, damage to closer distance, you kind of just essentially want damage. You're leveling, you're going to be replacing gear, you don't need to get too far in the weeds with this, just get damage, you know? Something to point out, though, is on your rings and on your amulet, you want familiar duration. This is really, really good, because obviously the longer these familiars are out, the more they're stunning, and the more damage you're going to get out of shocking impact. So this is really, really nice. Then we have something like evade cooldown reduction or just movement speed on your boots. That's really good to have. On one of your legs or chest, you do want to have that chance to freeze, and you also want that % total armor. Then after that, on your legs, chest, and helm, you ideally can go after some ice armor duration, so we can keep ourselves in Storm Swell as long as possible, and everything else is sort of up to you as you want to while leveling, but they are my main important recommendations. Mercenary wise, you've got Variana as the 10% attack speed bot. That is completely fine, and then as your main mercenary while leveling, while getting established into torment, I would always recommend Rahia, as he can give you that 15% all res, which is really, really nice, on top of a load of damage from inspiration, and then Bastion and Ground Slam come in handy very much nicely, especially Bastion if you get into a tricky spot. All that remains then is your boss powers. For your main one, as I said, you want allek's talons to turn your basic skills nuclear with that extra damage over 4 seconds. Then for your supporting skills, it's not as hugely important while leveling, but some good ones to aim for are Incerate's Flames for the just generic increase to all element damage. Then you want Turusk's Rage for the attack speed for your basic attacks. attack so you can spam it out more, and then something like Flesh Reaper's Disruption for just more vulnerable damage is really good too. You can also take crit chance at this point for your third one. It's not hugely important, just take something that helps in some way and you will be more than okay. Then to get into Paragon just for a little bit, so you know what to do when you first hit level 60, we want to go up and left, get all of the all resist as you will need it early on, then head up and right, grab your elementalist, go up to the glyph slot through the intelligence here, and then we end up at the glyph slot where you're going to want something like elementalist to get that 15% multiplicative increase. You can also go for tactician for again that 15% multiplicative increase from a defensive skill. Basically, you want something that gives you at least that 50% range, and those two are going to be your best shot at that. Then you want to, of course, make sure that it's active, which you can do so fairly easily as you go around everything, and then until we get enough points to properly get into the next board, you just want to grab all of the little damage extras that you can, and then finally we can move on. Of course, this is leveling, you'll be swapping fairly quickly, so Paragon isn't hugely important. That then, ladies and gentlemen, is that. A Season 8 starter that'll get you into Torment effortlessly, and indeed to level 60 very, very quickly. Some fun shock stun action with some lovely boss power support synergy, and all in all, I think it's going to be a really, really fun time. Let me know what you think, of course, and I look forward to being with you as a sorcerer through our sorcerer journey in yet another season. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below. And until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.